What's up, everyone? Welcome to Literary Souls, where we talk about books, literature, and literature adjacent things. I came up with that like a few streams ago, and I was like, I'm gonna stick to that. That's nice.
I approve.
Thank you. I came up with it on the fly, as I do most things in my life for some reason. All right, so hi chat, welcome panelists, welcome to the craziness that is my channel. Again, I don't know why you guys keep coming on. I guess it did something right.
Because we love you. So,
thank you. I love you too. Much love. So since Smile a While is on my left, introduce yourself to some of the chat. The chitty chat.
I am Smile a While for me. You know the song, you know the reference, you know my name. Smile a While for me on Instagram. Just jumped on Twitter, slightly different username. But we are reading two of the books that made the movies that made me the most angry. I was telling Jessica before the stream that I know I watched The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I remember the anger. I have zero memories from that, and I consider it a trauma response. That my brain just has literally blocked that entire movie from existence in my brain. But really excited to talk about these two books and some of my favorite characters.
Fabulous. And now, down below, welcome back to the channel, Miss Martin Muse. This is what, the second time?
Yes, I believe so. And then you've been over on mine for some pub crawling.
Yes. Recently, you did one with Mags, correct?
Oh yes, Mags Magitech and Mark with a C. And Monday, it's going to be My Nerdy Home. So please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And it's been a really fun time over there. We talk about what makes me happy, makes me sad. What makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. And I've got an upcoming review of the new Conan comic, which was amazing. So spoiler alert, and many other fun things.
Woot! Yeah, I have everyone's links in the description below. Hopefully I got all of the links right. I was like doing this last night, making sure I had all the links. I was like, I think this is everything. All right, Elijah, welcome back.
Hello.
Welcome back, Soul Sister.
Yes. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. Work has been busy and yeah, we've got a lot. We have a lot going on right now, and I'm gonna knit while we talk. I'm trying desperately to get this beautiful cardigan done by the fall because we're gonna take a wee trip, and I want it done for that. So yeah, I'm really happy to be back. I have to admit, I am a little bummed we missed out on my favorite book. Voyage is my least favorite book, but I love, it is so blatantly in your face allegory. I watched halfway through the movie and then I gave up. So I don't even remember really the movie. I only watched, if it was 2 hours, I don't even know. I only watched the first hour, maybe 45 minutes, and then I turned it off and never went back. So I don't remember the movie at all. I think I blocked it out. Caspian, I agree. I did not really care for it all. I hated that they had to shove some romance in there. Again, this is a children's book. We shouldn't have romance of any kind in children's, viewing pleasure. No, I'm excited to talk about stuff today, but I have been busy, so I'm sorry if I'm a little all over the place.
You're good. No worries. Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. In defense of The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the best part about it that they got absolutely right was Eustace, the actor who played Eustace. I think they did a fantastic.
I do remember that.
Yes, I would agree.
Amazing.
Eustace was a great actor in the movie,
and they did a good job with his arc.
Yes,
Eustace,
I agree. Yes,
I think I only watched the film for Reepicheep. I remember liking Reepicheep. That's why I remember watching it, because I remember Reepicheep. I don't remember anything else about the film, but I remember Reepicheep. Yeah. I have to say, if you listen to the audiobooks of the Chronicles of Narnia, the gal who does Reepicheep in Prince Caspian, par none, I will never accept another voice as Reaper Cheap. Yes, sir. I was like that high Victorian.
Yes, that's the one that I've been
she's
listening
like, I don't know
to
where she
because I've been
found-
listening to the audiobooks and stuff at work, and
Yeah.
I love her voice.
I don't know where she found it. I don't know how she got it, but I'm like, that is Reaper Cheap. No one else will ever be Reaper Cheap.
Yes. All right, well, let's welcome in the chat. Hi, Hokies. How you doing? How's everybody doing? Smile while you're in 2 places at once. Americus, why you... This is my editor, y'all. And you would think that he'd be fine waiting, but no.
We already established that he has virtues, but they're not possibly, it doesn't mean they're good ones.
Yes, he's not one of his better virtues. And we've got both of you in the chat as well, Ms. Martin Hughes and Elijah. 2 places at once. Stream Elements bot, you better behave. There have been some times it's yeeted people out of my chat when I told it not to, so behave. What's up, Stig? How you doing? I am rather disappointed in this book. Caspian didn't at any point in the story tread himself onto anyone named Dawn.
If someone's gonna get yeeted, it's gonna be him by the stream element.
Yup. Hello, pretty late art. How are you doing today? She's saying hi and then going back to work. Hope you have a fabulous day at work. Let's see. She also has a YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed, you should subscribe. Let's see who else. I think that is it for now. Don't have my knitting. Oh, cross stitching. See, y'all are. I envy you guys. I can't do that. If I try and sew anything, I like stab myself.
I'm doing my little small one. I needed to find a little project that I could finish and feel like I completed something because all of my projects I'm in are like 3-year-long projects at the moment, and I needed something that I could finish and feel good about.
Maybe I'll teach you how to crochet, Untamed Mando, because you can make loads of
there you
really
go.
cool things, little nerdy things.
Nice.
I wish you luck.
Who is partial. Hey, I mean, it'd be cool to actually have like a skill that is not on the internet. Apparently, that's the only skills I have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently, people.
Animal Crossing Americas. I've gotten hooked so badly on Animal Crossing lately. Go your Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I think I have Stardew Valley. I might get into that.
So I've gone through
What's up, Netflix,
Valley
Mando?
and Animal Crossing phases. Right now, we're not in either of those. I'm in my hardcore granny gardening mode.
It's a good mode to be
What?
in.
2 of my IRL best friends, Smile being one and our other friend. Why do you both love like gardening? I have a black thumb, and they're like, "You want some plants?" I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna die if they come to me."
We talked about this. You're just in an apartment that has the worst sunlight in the universe. You cannot judge your ability to keep anything alive until you are in a different place with better sunlight.
That's fair.
I don't think anything can be kept alive with the sunlight in that apartment. It's like all shaded. Like there's not enough sunlight for anything.
Teresa made me Guybrush 3 wood. What?
That's from the Monkey Island video game.
Oh, okay. I never actually played this.
Our mutual friend is making me feel very unproductive this morning. She's cutting down a tree that's like 2.5 feet across.
Oh. What? Why didn't she tell me? I would have gone over and helped her chop it. Oh my god!
At 5 o'clock this morning,
I don't
she
chop
was
trees. I would kill
chainsawing a
my
tree
cat.
down at 5 o'clock this morning.
I'm not
Her
good
dad's
with
on her way
sharp
to help
objects.
because that storm came in.
See, I love sharp, pointy objects.
Oh well, I
means
just
you
tend to
should-
poke
you
them in
should
myself. That's my
have-
problem.
Is
I
that
forgot to
what
water my
crochet and you
bamboo for
don't
like 3
knit?
months. I'm pretty sure.
Possibly, but no, actually, mainly it's because I have too many holes in knitting. It's harder to get holes in crochet.
What's up,
I have the opposite
Pigeon?
problem. I have problems with tension with crocheting and because I knit pretty tight or have in the past. And
I feel like this would be me the whole time.
Tension with
You're like
knitting.
ripping it. Bikini women chopping down trees is called lumber bark.
Oh my!
Is Stig trying to get kicked out by the stream bot? Stream elements? Is that-
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
Wow. Yeah.
And then We know where the chat's going now.
Okay.
We know where the
Oh,
chat's
here
gone.
we go. Here we go.
Chat's gone.
Chat's descended into madness.
Yes.
Yup.
Oh, the chat there.
I feel like
He's
that's
making me wanna grab
all of my chats is somehow at some point in time it just gets derailed and I'm just like, I don't know.
Well, that's the fun of chats. Well, no, I
We
mean,
love you
yeah, it's
guys.
all done in love. It's all done in love.
Yes, as long as you guys don't get my channel demonetized before it's even monetized, to be
Yeah.
great.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know who keeps somebody has got my channel under their thumb because if I do anything out of line, they're like copyright stuff. I was like, what? It was Mario. Like I was playing a clip of Mario. Yeah.
Oh.
For the record,
Oh.
I did not bring the chaos.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I taught the chat.
Yeah, get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. All right, y'all. So for those of you who weren't here last time, we went with The Horse and His Boy, which is Smile a While and a Trouble Green's favorite book, and I mostly liked it because I was like, ooh, horsies.
Oh, I love Horse and His Boy.
I mean, I love horses, which is why it was the first book I read. But as an adult, I love it for different reasons.
And so this time we are doing Voyage of the Dawn Treader and Prince Caspian. Not in that order though, because that needs to be switched.
They publishing order or series order. That is the wrong order.
Yes, both orders. For those of you who don't know, there is a chronological order of Chronicles of Narnia, and there is a publishing order of Chronicles of Narnia, and they are not all the same.
No, so chronologically, Prince Caspian is book 5, and Voyage of the Dawn Treader, 4, and Voyage of the Dawn Treader is book 5. And publishing order, they are books 2 and 3 respectively.
Yep, because the first one in the chronological order was actually one of the last ones published. So
yes,
yeah, which when we get into the last 2 books makes sense because like the none of the other books make reference to the magician's nephew really besides the last battle. If we really look at it, it's like all of a sudden like, oh, we remember the old history about the nephew and the magician, and it's just like, but we didn't talk about that in the other books. So that was but that's something for the last battle talk. It was just something that
there's like a brief reference, but like not the same kind of reference in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, just because we know that the lamppost came out of our world, and there's a brief reference to how the lamppost got there in the first place. But there's no names, no story outside of the fact that it has something to do with the creation of the world and the White Witch. So it's very, very vague.
And then in the last battle, they're like naming all these things off. I was like, it was a little weird when first time I ever read Last Battle, but that's just me. All right, so since I'm not good at summaries, do one of y'all want to do the summary of Prince Caspian? Because I know I read the book, but I'm not good at summaries in chronological order because I'm like, oh, rabbit trail.
Well, since you've asked, Miss Martin will step in. Once upon a time, there were the Pensives, and they were going off to boarding school. And just as they're about ready to go their separate ways to their different boarding schools, suddenly they're like, there's magic, let's hold hands. And they are back in the Narnia world, but it's like everything is different. They can't recognize anything, and they come across the ruins of their castle, Carapavel, and they realize it's been Paravel. Thank you. 1,000 years at least, and they're legends. And just as they're like, oh my gosh, then there's some baddies come, and there's a little dwarf named Peter Dinklage, named Trumpkin, and he's like, oh, let me tell you what's been happening. And then we get a flashback where we learn about a little Prince Caspian, who is 13, not Ben Barnes. So that's one thing I didn't mind about the movie.
Right. Yeah, the movie had him a little bit older, which, I mean, he was a nice looking Prince Caspian, but he should have been 13, not 30.
He's a child. Yeah, he's a child.
Yeah, I know, but you know.
They don't know this. The chat doesn't know this.
You will never hear me complain about that change. But yes, but he was 13 years old, and he's being raised by his uncle, who's the king of Narnia, and everything's cool and fine. But then his aunt has a boy, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna die!" So because he's gonna kill him now that he has an heir, so his tutor helps him to run off and be safe, and he gives them not Lucy's, Susan's horn of, you know, like if you ever blow the horn, the old kings and queens of Narnia of old will come and help. And so Prince Caspian gets all friends with all the little people, because, you know, dwarves and fauns and all that were like marginalized and outcasts and you know, in
almost
danger,
extinct in a certain way. Yeah, they were like living like below society and hiding.
Yeah. And exactly. And then they get into trouble, and then all of a sudden, dun dun dun, he blows the horn, and then we get to the present where Trumpkin finishes telling the tale, and off they go to Aslan's where
How?
oh my gosh, how thank yeah where Calvary
It's called
was.
Aslan's How. It's not a question of how. It's a place.
Genie Mac. Did I say the Horn of Gondor? No, I said the Horn.
No.
Okay.
He's just asking. No, it's not the Horn of Gondor. There are two different horns.
Yeah.
Two different possible universes.
And no, it is not that horn either. From the
Oh, no. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. I see. I'm not going to get you copyrighted, so it'll probably copyright that, even though I
don't think that song's under copyright anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point, Steve, about Heimdall, the Norse mythology. Yeah. See, I don't know that.
Oh, there's when we get a little bit more into the nitty gritty, there's a couple of names in Prince Caspian that are actually Greek names, and I just realized them this time reading them through.
Yep. So he definitely, and that makes sense because C.S. Lewis would have known all of this stuff much better than I do. So anyway, so then they all go off, and they're all in Cair Pavel, and then the bad guys show up, the Caspian's uncles and all of them, and Peter does 1-to-1 hand combat with the leader, and he defeats him but doesn't kill him. But then there's like fighting between the bad guys, and so they make it look like Peter murdered him in cold blood, and then a big battle happens. But then Aslan shows up. Well, actually no, and then there's like this river god thing. I'd like to talk about this because I think it's weird.
That's actually one of the two gods that are mentioned. The river gods are actually Greek, and they aren't river gods in the Greek mythology, but we'll get into that.
We'll
bash
back everybody. All of like the water nymphs and the water gods haven't been heard from like in thousands of years, because like they basically all went to hiding and were like killed. So like all the druids in the trees, they've been sleeping, and so like as you're traveling through, you start feeling things like that.
Yeah, and okay, and so then everything's put right, and Prince Caspian's going to be the king, and then Aslan allows the people. I would call them the tiramisu. My gosh, what are they called? The people? I'm terrible.
Telomerines.
Thank you, Telomerines.
Yeah, the Telomerines.
Telomerines. He's like,
I made a similar joke one time, and it has never left me. The country of baklava still stands.
Okay, all right, there we go. It turns out that they are from our Earth, and they were like living on this pirate island, and there was a portal there. So he's like, y'all can go back and live on Pirate Island, and they're like, cool. So they go, and then Aslan says, and kids, it's time for you to go back too. And they do. The end.
And Peter and Susan cannot come back.
Nope. Yes. They are banished. No, not banished.
No telemarketers.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're too old.
Maybe the Telemarines became the telemarketers.
Oh. Thank you. Come on.
Yeah.
Which this like makes a lot more sense if you think about like, you know, going back to the horse and his boy. The Telemarines were very obviously from a more Middle Eastern culture and Middle Eastern influence in his writing. That's pretty obvious. And so this makes a lot of sense. So he is sending him back to Earth Probably in an island. I imagine this to be an island, probably in the India region, somewhere in the Sea of India, Indian Sea. Suddenly
Geography
blanking on
is not
geography.
my strong suit. We all know that I get lost easily, so
You do.
I even have a compass now.
Doesn't help you if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Use a compass.
It points north.
Indian Ocean. Thank you. Indian Ocean, Indian Sea. Yeah. So my guess is that's probably where he's sending him back to, somewhere there, just based on their ethnicity kind of flair in the book.
Could possibly be that. I know in the movie they portrayed them as being very much more Middle Eastern. Like it was almost a 1-for-1 in my opinion, or maybe a little Spanish. Yeah,
I thought that's what it was.
So I don't feel like that'd be super far off though, because if you go back to The Horse and His Boy, it's very, very Middle Eastern themes for the Telemarine, for that country, for the whole that whole region, for looking at the names and the social structure and certain words and how they're described to be dressed. It would be very, very that Middle Eastern Arabia culture, which we had talked about being like possibly the Arabian Nights was a very popular book at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That he was writing the series. So that was a book that was really working its way through Europe right around that time frame, and probably would have had a pretty big influence on writing. It was a very popular book at the time.
Well, I think I'm actually thinking I'm going to go back on what I said, agreeing with you, Teresa, because the Calormen are not the same as the Telmeri. I'm probably going to mispronounce that name 50 bajillion times. I think that like. Huh?
The Calormen?
Yeah, the Calormen. It has an O in front of the R. I'm gonna say Calormen. Because he describes them for sure as Middle Eastern. Like there is no questions. Whereas the Telmeri are a different not race, but a different people group. So it could very well be the Spanish conquistadors that maybe some of them got lost or something during that
That's
time
true.
period.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I think it's hard because of course the movie was so different from the book as far as that's concerned. So I'd need to double check that.
So we really don't actually know a ton about them.
Yeah,
because yes, they were pirates.
Except that they conquered.
Yeah. Because Telmar is actually like, so there's Narnia, Arkenland, and then Calormen. They're actually off to the side, just kind of like over here in Telmar. So like they went east and conquered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a map.
Yeah. Everybody go.
When I sound intelligent, I probably Googled something.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. We all do it, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, that could be interesting. Like, were they possibly like? Because it says they were pirates, but like, were they pirates that like are Pirates of the Caribbean pirates? Were they Spanish pirates? Like
I got the idea that they were more like South Pacific, like it was around that area. But don't quote me on that.
What are your thoughts, Elijah? Do you think that the Telmeri are also from Calormen, or are they like conquistadors that got trapped, or where do you think their ethnicity lies?
I always took them to be conquistadors. Yeah, they found because they found some sort of door into Narnia through our world. So yeah, I always took them to be continental Europe, even like Celts or something. But yeah, I very much saw them as being some sort of continental Europe esque. And like the thing is, like to me, you'd have to think of like who Britain would have a beef with at that point in time, and I'm like, Spain's a good candidate for that. So yeah, I mean, I know the movie made them Spanish. I mean, but to me, they were almost like too Mexican Spanish. I'm like, no, they need to be like Celtic Spanish. There's a difference. So yeah, I took them somewhere France, Brittany, Spain, Portugal, that area.
Okay. Americus makes a point that there were pirates in the Philippines a few hundred years ago. Like, the Philippines are an island.
Ow.
Ooh.
Sorry.
It happens. No worries. Eesh. What's up, Riker? Watch Mario now. I hope you liked Mario. I heard it was a good movie. Everyone pick a country Britain had a beef with. All of them. Every single one.
Britain who had it? Who threw the first punch?
What country? Actually, the game with the shorter list would be is what country did Britain not have beef with?
This is true.
I don't know if Antarctica. The continent.
Or did
they might have had beef with them. I don't think that's
maybe the penguins have issues.
There you go.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Australia, which was a very strong British colony, went to war with emus and lost. So,
they're a prisoner colony, and they went to war with emus and lost. That tells something about emus.
Yeah, you don't mess with those.
I don't know. I've never been to Australia. And
yeah, don't mess with emus. I've worked with emus. Don't mess with emus. They're up there with camels to me.
No computer. Don't you dare force a restart. Don't you do it.
Oh. Well, suddenly if Untamed Mando goes, well, we all know what to do, ladies. It'll be party time.
Right?
It was just like a little pop-up like, would you like to restart your computer now? No. Don't you do it. Computers and technology, everyone. That's how I feel sometimes. So yeah, that was something interesting that I thought about. I was like, what is the actual ethnicity of the Telmeri? Also, what are you guys' thoughts on how did they find Susan's horn? Like, really? Because like Susan's like, yeah, I left it on a horse in the woods.
So they were out hunting. The horses would have gone back with the servants that were with them when they were hunting for the White Stag. Everything else that belonged to them, like, you know, they feel like, oh, I didn't have this, and I didn't have this, and I didn't have this. They go through their gifts, and those would all left at the castle and would have been left in their keep in the treasure chambers because those are valuable things. But the horn is now because they're gone, and probably under the assumption you've got to go back. Like, I would love if he had written a book giving us what happened in Narnia when the kings and the queens just like disappeared into the woods and didn't come back after this time. Like, what was going on? Like,
yeah, where was Aslan?
With 4 horses and no kings and queens. They have Susan's horn. And what happened at that point in time? So obviously the horn did not end up in the treasury. It ended up with, I would assume, whoever was kind of next in line at that point in time without knowing. We don't have names of structures, but there is always, like, if you're following any sort of hierarchical monarchical system, there is always a next in line, even a presidential situation like we are, like, just like, yeah, there's like, we can kind of track, like, this grandchild of this person is this many people would have to die for this person to end up being king or queen of this country. Same thing happens in the United States because you always have to have a system of leadership because you need leadership to control chaos. So all the way down to they weren't actually. So Shasta wasn't actually, or what's his name after he's renamed? He's Shasta. He wasn't actually a child of Narnia. He was a child of Arkenland. But they did have a good relationship.
Strong, yeah, so I would think that maybe Arkenland would have like kind of taken over and just ruled
or helped
for a bit.
Or assisted.
Yeah.
Or
I think that probably Peter had a high council, something akin to a parliament. That probably would have been, you know, not terribly different from the first High Council that Aslan convened in The Magician's Nephew, except you would have had dryads and stoats, or not stoats. You know,
are cute, though.
Yeah. So, like, you know, the more magical creatures. So I think, like, if anything, maybe the centaurs would have been a likely candidate. Like, they're wise. They would have foreseen, we will need this at some point in time. That shouldn't be put away. I don't know. I think that, like, I think C.S. Lewis wrote it in such a way that it's supposed to be a mystery of, like, how did the horn get from A to B over 1,000 years? But yeah, I feel like probably the High Council, knowing what the horn did, would have determined it needs to stay somewhere where it's slightly more accessible.
Obviously, it ended up in the hand of, a wizard, essentially. And so at some point, it must have gotten into the hands of humans who had magical abilities, and it was being kept safe by them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's another question. Like, are wizards human in Narnia? Because, like, the wise old person at the end of Dawn Treader was a star.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's true.
This is true.
So are wizards human in Narnia?
Well, and the other wizard on the island with the duffel pods,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He was also a star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's
The
a good
world
point.
might never know. But these are the questions that you ask yourself. Lewis, why didn't you answer these questions? He's probably like, because it doesn't matter. Like,
Right.
Which, like, jumping forward in a book here, that means that, okay, so one, the wizard, the guy at the end of the book is a star. His daughter is a star. We don't know anything about her mother. Was her mother also a star? Was she just
these are the questions that you ask.
created?
What happened
That
to
also
his mother?
means that
Well, he did write a bunch
Caspian.
he did write a bunch of letters. Maybe the answers are in there. I've never read his
True.
letters.
Yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
I want C.S. Lewis's letters.
Yes.
So this
I
means
think
that Caspian marries a girl who's at least half star,
yes.
Yeah.
which means their children are now at the absolute least quarter star. I don't remember how genetics work. If she's full
That's
star,
answers for
his
the
children
silver
are half
chair.
star. Which actually, yeah, like I don't think I remember like that being such a thing when I had read this and when I've read the books in the past. That wasn't like I was just like my brain just glanced over that. It was like, oh, of course he has a daughter and he's a star, but that like didn't stick in my brain as being imperative for future stuff.
And so Hokies, a star in Narnia is actually a person. It's not a star in the way that we think of it, like in Mario. They are just a person. They just live a very long time and they're shiny,
Mhm.
kind of.
Mhm.
They're very wise. Very interesting when you think about like our understanding of stars and like what Lewis's understanding of stars would have been at the time. It's just like it could be a person.
Which is really interesting to think about in relation to Space Trilogy.
Space Trilogy was
They
a
didn't
little.
have like they're interesting. Like you have to go back and like understand like their understanding of space and star and cosmology for like some of this to make sense
Because Space Trilogy, like, it confused the heck out of me for a bit. I was like, wait a second. What? What is there? What? And like his
that
idea
was,
of what
like, the
angels
Jetson
were.
level sci-fi at the time. Come on.
Right. So the two names of the water, well, one of them was a water god, right? Or river god. Let's see. And then so it's one's a river god and one's another god. The Bacchus, like he's actually that's another name for Dionysus. And if any of you know Greek mythology, Dionysus was the god of wine and merrymaking and festivities. And
yeah, so they were supposed to be drinking wine and having partying, right?
Oh, and ritual madness
Oh, nice.
and ecstasy.
Just regular lighthearted stuff.
Right. Like, and so now that, you know, like I understand a little bit more Greek because I took Greek. I look at it, I'm like, wait a second, who is this? And when I realized, oh, that's Dionysus. That's not a nice, tame, child-friendly god. Why this one? There's so many you could have picked from. Why this one? And then
You
the
can't
other
help
one,
but wonder what was going through his head, like
maybe
when
he was
went
just
through
reading.
the gods.
Maybe he was reading the Iliad and the Odyssey. He's like, I gotta find some Greek gods I need to name some stuff after.
He's like, oh,
Maybe.
this is something cool.
I always
Yes,
thought
that's-
like, I don't know. I feel like, this is going to sound a little sacrilegious to say, I feel like Tolkien was a little bit better at drawing on inspiration from our world, and C.S. Lewis was like, I'm just going to throw everything in the pot and just keep it the name it is and just move on. Like, I feel like he was, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just like, I'm like, hold on. If you're going to mention this thing, can we have a little bit more? It's like, at least we got a whole chapter with Tom Bombadil for as annoying as he was, but here
Right.
we like a party and we move on and we don't really ever see them again. And I'm like, seriously, dude?
Yeah.
I'm in the rare party that enjoyed Tom Bombadil.
Oh, I've liked Tom Bombadil. I've appreciated him more as time has gone on, but I know what you mean. Well, I think that the two of them themselves had some disagreements about that kind of thing. Tolkien had his nose up in the air a little bit about some of the things that C.S. Lewis did. With
C.S. Lewis was a rebel.
Lewis was like, it was like the difference between a methodical person, like a very, very methodical thinker writing, and like an ADHD writer. It would be like having somebody who is like autistic, who like created their entire universe in this world and all of these things, and then you have the ADHD writer over here who's like, this sounds good.
Let's just throw it in.
And they're friends.
Yes. Actually, a lot of friendships are like that. Like me, I'm just like, let's figure it out, and we'll just do things. Yeah.
I'm the methodical one. I've created an entire schedule when our mutual friend visited. We had a daily schedule, and she and I both loved it.
What?
It was busy.
You plan out your vacations? Like, was it by hour or by day?
By day.
Okay. I was about to be like,
a lot of families. We had like multiple day trips in there, and then we, it was a busy week.
See, I'm just like, okay, we're gonna be in this place for a week. We for sure need to do this, this, and this. Everything else in between, I don't care.
See, that's funny. That's me, and I married the planner. And I have such horrific, crippling travel anxiety. I like physically almost can't do it. I'm just like, here are the dates. Can you please just handle it? And he does. So thank the Lord for that, because I like almost physically can't do it because I have such bad travel anxiety. So I'm just like, I want to do this and this. And I told him, I was like, I want to do this and this. He's like, okay. Anything else? I was like, no. He's like, okay, I got everything else. And I was like, fine. Just tell me where to be and when to be there, and I'll be good.
Yes, that's how I am.
Yeah, I'm too antisocial for that.
I pack a week ahead of time and impact the 2 days before. And if I go down to visit you guys, I have a less loose schedule. Like I have a much looser schedule. Like I normally schedule a day to see you, Mando, and then whatever our friend wants to do, I'm on her schedule.
See, that's just so freeing for me. It's just like, I might decide to do this until I have to rely on other people. It's like, hey, I want to do this. I'm not sure about that. Do you want to do it? I don't know. I'm about to go do this. It's like, nah, I don't want to go. I'm like, I'm going anyway.
Well, I just realized I've been a bad girl. I totally forgot. I forgot to mention Reepicheep, one of the coolest characters. I was doing an overview of.
Yes, and we appreciate the overview because we need that. Because I would have just been like, "Oh, Reepicheep," and then gone on a tirade for the next 20 minutes about Reepicheep. Oh, we need to do the summary again.
Yeah, we get introduced to Reepicheep decently early on in the book. He is essentially like leader of the talking mice, which the really cool thing is that Aslan references this when he meets Reepicheep, that mice, because if you go back to Magician's Nephew, mice were not one of the animals that were given the ability to talk. They were a not lesser animal, but they were a lesser animal. They were not given the ability to talk. And this changes because of how the mice freed Aslan after the White Witch killed him on the stone table. That he gave them the ability to talk and he changed them. So they are now larger mice than just think about a mouse, and they have the ability to talk, which is just really cool to see because of all of the different species that you have happening here. the mice are above and away, like there is no questioning their loyalty all the way through. We have a dwarf who turns coat. We have, there's lots of questioning among different groups and kind of having to almost prove himself to them. But the mice are solid the entire way through. There is not a single moment of hesitation of them for anything except for Aslan and Narnia and Prince Caspian being the true child of the true heir of Narnia, and just how much that must lend back to 1,000 years ago when they freed Aslan from the stone table. So I think that's part of that deep passionate. Like they're mentioned how many times that like how big of a role they were playing in the battle throughout the whole time, that they're these tiny things, and either they were stripping people up or they were stabbing them in the feet so that someone else could kill them. Like that they were really, really, really influential in the tide of the battle going well. Or as well as it did.
Yeah. And then like it just goes to prove like even small things are important. I think that was kind of the big lesson that Lewis was trying to give us in the mice Reaper Sheep. I wonder if he thought that through. Like, I'm just gonna make this cool random mouse that's gonna be basically the bestest mouse ever in the entire series.
I think he didn't think it through. I think that's exactly it, because that's more like C.S. Lewis's kind of thought. I think that he definitely thought out the Aslan part because Jesus, but the rest of it I think was exactly as you said.
Like, this sounds cool. I'm gonna add it.
Yeah. I have a feeling that he did not foresee the Reaper Sheep cult following that has happened.
Oh no, I don't think so either. Can you imagine like Tolkien and Lewis talking like, Lewis is like, yeah, I'm gonna add a talking mouse into my story, and he's gonna be really great. And Tolkien's like, a what? A mouse?
Why? What's the logic behind it? What's the history? What's the function? And C.S. Lewis was like, nothing.
It's just cool mouse.
He's awesome.
Reaper Sheep is our Sam. He just has more Victorian flourish.
Yes.
He is. I really, one of these days, like, I just wish I could, like, understand the dynamic between Lewis and Tolkien even more, with just, like, their friendship, because they were great friends until the ring incident. And just, like, the conversations that, like, they'd have with the Inklings is just like, yeah, I've got this cool mouse, and Tolkien's like, what the heck? And then all the other people in the Inklings are probably going, Lewis, are you okay? Have you been smoking that pipe too hard? Like, are you sure you're okay? Have you had one too many pipes?
I'll tell you what, though. One thing that the movie I thought Prince Caspian got very well was many aspects of Reaper Sheep, especially at the end when his, he didn't have his tail. And they had him on a little litter, and they were playing bagpipes. They did do that perfectly in the movie. It was so cute, and yeah, that's
he doesn't get his tail back for any reason. Well, just like the loyalty of his followers, that they're all going to cut their tails off because, like, this great honor and glory that their tail is to them. That Reaper Sheep gets his tail back because of his followers' devotedness. And but that continues on. Oh, and then Aslan tells them, no, you're not allowed to go through the door because you would be destroyed in the regular world.
Yes.
And then there's the prophecy spoken over him that we see fulfilled in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And once again, you have Reaper Sheep, who is above and beyond the most loyal character, even all the way through Voyage of the Dawn Treader till the end. He is like, I am going, like, the determination of him, like, if you want to talk about, like, being a devoted, faithful follower of Aslan and into this role of follower of Christ, like, Reaper Sheep is like, no, this is why we are here. This is what has been said. And I need to follow the prophecy all the way to the end. Just a minute.
Yeah, I agree. I think Reaper Sheep was the champion of Prince Caspian and Voyage of the Dawn Treader, because I don't think it would have been nearly as entertaining or as good without Reaper Sheep.
I don't know. It's so cute because, again, like the woman who's reading the audiobook, I mean, she just captures that Victorian caricature so well. And it's like the last thing you would expect in this little mouse, you know? It's like that, and you know, it's funny. And I like in my head canon, one of the pools in Narnia leads to Brian Jacques' Mossflower Wood. If anyone's a Brian Jacques fan, the Long Patrol. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, and if you don't, please go read Brian Jacques. There are 21 books. You'll be highly entertained. The long hair patrol, or sorry, the long. Why did that just turn on? Why am I getting the Long Patrol? The Long Patrol hairs of Salamandastron Dastron and Reepicheep would have been besties. They would have been constantly fighting about who's the better swordsman, but they would have been besties, absolutely, because they have that just unique Victorian charm that these old writers just love to put in their stories. I just love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I any scene with Reepicheep, he's like, "I will take you on, sir," for like I think his honor, or like somebody was teasing him, and he's just like, "I shall cut you."
Like, he did not take teasing very well.
No,
Reepicheep is so serious. There's very little sense of humor.
but that's what makes him so funny.
It's part of why we all love him, though, right? Like they're on that last island, and they're like, he's like, "Hey, if you guys aren't all going, I'm taking my tiny little boat. I'm just paddling. Like,
Yup.
like with or without y'all, I'm going east."
Yeah. Like, okay, fam. If you want to chicken out, that's fine. I'm gonna be the bigger person and go. And he's like, he's the smallest.
That is part of what happens, though. Like some of the guys go, they're like, "Well, I'm not gonna be bested by a mouse." Like,
yes. Oh my god, and that because like his valor, his valor and his courage spur all of the other Narnians on. It's like, I'm not gonna be outdone by this tiny little creature. It makes.
You know what just occurred to me? I'm sorry, Mando. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're good.
I don't know if you guys are gonna agree with this because this just like came to me. Reepicheep is like Narnia's Paul. He's like the most fervent. We will be soldiers for Aslan.
Yes.
He following. He inspires people. I'm like, he's Paul. That's who Reepicheep is. He's Paul.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
He's like, his ethics are better than everyone else.
Yes.
It's just, he calls out the people.
He wants fame and glory. Like, there's nothing about Reepicheep that, like, wants the fame and the glory. Like, he has his honor and he knows who he is, but it is all because he's like, this is what is right and this is what we are doing and this is what Aslan says, so this is true. Come with me or not, I'm going and going.
Well, it's not just like anything else. It's not a perfect analogy, but
sure.
Yeah, because he was very vain.
Yes.
Yeah. St. Paul could have been. He was a bit of a know-it-all. I must admit, even in this, it's the scriptures.
Hey, you don't know what Paul's thorn in his side was. It could have been his vanity.
Yeah, that's true.
It could have been. Could have been. Oh my gosh.
We should do a quick summary of Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Let's do Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Did I say Shredder or Treader? I think I said
the Shredder.
The Shredder. I'm sorry. I did friends of mine did a review of the TMNT, and so Shredder's kind of in my brain now. Sorry. Teresa, would you like to do the honors again, or does somebody else want to do the summary? Yeah. Because we all know my wonderful summaries always.
Yeah, I'll bow out because I'm a chicken. Because this one's harder to summarize because it's so episodic.
Yeah, this is a much longer one. It's like Prince Caspian really only takes course over like a week, maybe 2.
Like you can sit down and take like 4 or 5 hours to read it, maybe.
No, I meant not how long it takes. Like the actual time that they're in Narnia, the entire book, like outside the history of it, the actual book happens within the course of a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's I would say no more than a month.
Yeah, it's a pretty short, and even like Susan and Peter's and Edmund's and Lucy's trip to Narnia is really very short in the scheme of their other trip, especially. So we're forward in time. we know Susan and Peter are not able to come back anymore. This is what they have been told by Aslan, although that's not explicitly discussed at the end of Prince Caspian. There's a very serious discussion that Aslan has with them. We know they're not coming back. We know that Lucy and Edmund get to come back. So through the series of events, Susan is kind of, we hear telltales that Susan is becoming a little bit more vain and a little bit more the Susan that we know from the last battle. And Peter is away at school, and Edmund and Lucy, through the course of events, are unfortunately with an aunt and uncle who probably would have been best described as like the very more liberal leftish of the time, very loose parenting, very non-traditional methods of raising their child. And we introduce Eustace, their younger cousin, who is a terror. Honestly, it's a terror.
It's a light way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yes, Edmund and Lucy are surviving the summer by escaping to Lucy's room and talking about Narnia, because this is the happiest thing they can think of, and they both really miss Narnia. One day, Eustace comes in and is bothering them, and it had already been discussed that this painting on the wall, which doesn't fit anything else in the house, looks like a Narnian ship to them. And the painting comes to life and starts moving, and they find themselves all in Narnia. Eustace spends at least half of the book trying to find a British embassy on every island, and he is in absolute denial, no matter what.
Like,
he and Gripper Cheap do not get along. He's meeting animals that are talking, and Eustace is just he's struggling. He feels like he's in a nightmare. And we end up on the ship of Prince Caspian, who is now fulfilling the promise that he made to go get the lords that his uncle had sent off, his father's elders that his uncle had sent off, to basically get out of the way so he could take over the kingdom at the time. And he wants to go figure out what happened and like come to peace with that. These islands have not been traveled to by Narnians since the time of the High Kings and Queens. So 1,000 years, and they've basically been out from under the rule of Narnia, although they are Narnian countries technically. It starts with them on island number 1, with them getting kidnapped and trying to be sold as slaves. And we find Lord number 1 who is there and actually helps them get everybody back together. They get on the road, they get going again. There's so many islands. There's the Nightmare Island where they pick up the crazy guy, but that's later on. There's
the Dragon Island.
The Dragon Island, which is when Eustace becomes a dragon, and really is actually turning, like, that's a huge moment for Eustace. It's one of the islands they spend the most time on in the book writing, because it's a huge change for Eustace's character. He is dealing with his greed and has basically forced into a situation of loneliness and fear, and really has to face himself and who he is, and has a face down with who we now know is, he doesn't know Aslan, but it's Aslan, who basically sheds him of his skins, because he is a dragon, and he talking about getting rid of our sins and getting rid of those parts of ourselves that are really, really, truly ugly and make us a dragon in many ways is not a fun and easy and painless process. In this case, it is fueled by greed. And so they spend a couple weeks on the island because Eustace is a dragon, and they recognize that it's Eustace, and what are we going to do about this? We can't get him on the ship. We can't bring enough food to feed him. There is the island with the duffel pods.
I always forget their name. I'm just like, the little invisible people that bounce. What are their names?
Invisible, like one giant foot. With who we now know is a star in exile, basically. He's
like we said earlier, stars are people in Narnia.
That's actually the first time we see Aslan in the book, is on that island, because when Lucy reads the book, and we kind of actually deal with a little bit of Lucy's struggle with herself. Each of the characters kind of have a moment, maybe not Edmund so much, but Lucy for sure has this moment of dealing with kind of her fears and her struggles of not being Susan and not being the beauty that Susan is. And we see a lot of that struggle with choosing vanity and things. And that that her self feelings and that struggle that she has in that book. And she reads this magical story that's like the best story she's ever heard, and she doesn't know how to remember it. You know, all of these things. But once she finally gets to the spell and she makes everybody visible again, that's when we encounter Aslan. And no one else sees Aslan in that instance. He doesn't come down and say hello to everybody. There's a Nightmare Island. What islands am I missing? There's quite a few islands.
There's like
There's
seven.
the gold one, and
Yeah, the gold island.
Oh yeah, there's the island with the gold where everything becomes gold. There's the guy who's dead at the bottom in gold.
I think there's 7.
yeah, 7 for 7. Well,
Yeah,
is it
7 islands.
7 Northwards? I don't know.
And then
thinking because like there were 7 lords and so 7 islands for because the last island there were 2 lords on it.
Yep.
So 6 islands.
Yeah,
There
Maybe.
was no lord on the Dufflepot Island.
I don't remember.
It's
the
either
wizard.
6 or 7.
We get to the last island and there is this stone table, and everybody they realize that these are the last 2 guys who are sleeping. It was 2 guys who were sleeping at the table in an enchanted sleep. Or was it 3? Wasn't there 3 lords sitting there?
No, it was 2 that they were there, and then the crazy lord they took with them decides he wants to go to
He
sleep
will
as well
sleep.
because
Yeah.
he's been on the Nightmare Island for a very long time and he wants to go sleep.
Struggling with his psychosis. And it is decided that they're all going to sit up and wait to see what happens, because there's like all this food and they're like pretty convinced like, oh, if we eat this, we're going to be asleep too. And they don't want that to happen. But they're kind of trying to decide, like, well, this is the last of the 7, so technically they've fulfilled their duties. How do you keep the guys from going back? Because Reba Cheap's like, I'm going east. We haven't hit Aslan land yet. I'm going to keep going east. And the
Good old
birds,
Reaper Cheap.
yeah, these birds all come from the east and come and eat all the food off the table. They meet the most beautiful woman, and they meet her father. And it is eventually decided. Prince Caspian shows his wisdom here, really, and his age, where he, instead of going, he recognizes that the guys want to go home. And so instead of going like, hey, if you want to come along with us, and giving them a choice, he makes it feel like an honor for them to come along. He's like, we're going to discuss and see who gets to come along, because this is you have to be special if they come with us. And all of the guys start arguing about who wants to come. One of the guys gets left behind because of indiscretion on his own, I think, in questioning Caspian's leadership and how he dealt with the situation. So they all get on the ship. They continue traveling east. Because partially for the lords to be woken up, they have to travel as far east as possible and leave somebody there. And Reba Cheap's like, well, that's easy. He's like, I want to go east. He's like, the prophecy is that I go east and that I am left there. So they keep traveling east. The water becomes sweet and filling, and they no longer need to eat food. There is no wind, but they're kind of stuck in this current. They have a whole incident with the sea people who they have to kind of keep everybody from jumping, or they make sure that nobody else sees, because they don't want them jumping overboard.
It's kind of like an Odyssey moment.
A little bit of Odyssey moment, yeah. And they keep going east, and they keep going east, and they hit all these lily pads, and they just keep going east. And finally, the boat can no longer go further. So they keep checking, they keep doing sounds and checking how deep the water is. And finally, it's like, nope, we can't go any further. So they all get in a rowboat, all being Susan, Edmund, Eustace, and Reba Cheap. Caspian wants to go. And there's actually this really, really kind of breaking moment where, like, they have to tell him he needs to go back. Like, he is required to go back. He is not allowed to go with them. And Caspian is mad and angry, and he's refusing. He's like, no. He's like, I said I'm going to go east. I'm going to go east. I don't know how I'm going to get back. And they're like, well, remember you told that girl that you're going to go back and marry her. So they're trying all these things. He's like, oh, yeah. Well, he goes down to his bunk room and is sulking, and there is a lion-shaped knocker on his door, or something on his door that's lion-shaped. And it comes to life, and Aslan talks to him and basically has a conversation with him and is like, hey, like, it's not your place to go. This isn't your turn to go. You can't go east. Lucy and Edmund and Eustace and Reaper Chief are going to go, but you don't get to go. You have to go back. We have a country to lead. So off they go in their boat, and Caspian turns the ship around and sorrowfully goes back to the island, where he does. He marries the daughter of the star. Who
We're still not sure if the daughter is half star, where her mother is. It's kind of the opposite problem that we're having in the Disney realm of there's an absent father, and this one there's no mother.
We don't really there's no conversation about the mother, but they get back and all three of the elders are awake, and they're able to go back. As we kind of get a little bit of a rundown, they go back and he lives a long, good life, and they have children, and he's a good king. Then we continue following Eustace, Edmund, and Lucy further east for multiple days. They're just floating along in the stream, and they finally see like a wall of water, and Reaper Chief's like, yep, this is where I'm going. And he gets his teeny little boat out and he goes over the wall of water and he disappears to Aslan's country, which is all we know about Aslan's country. And then the stream continues the current takes them to a beach, and they get up on the beach, and it's a very large beach. And they are met by a talking lamb who sits down and has breakfast with them and feeds them and talks with them. Who then reveals himself to be Aslan, and
this is like
exactly, yeah, the gospel.
Live with the lamb.
If you were questioning on whether Aslan was Jesus, this was just like, oh, he's Jesus. Like there's no question. Very obvious.
It's like in your face, and like the whole like eating the fish on the beach with St. Peter and all them. And
this one to me is like the most like in your face allegory.
Yeah,
like especially the dream island where she sees the albatross that turns into a cross. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
I forgot Dream Island. Yep.
This one hits you over the head with the allegory. It is very in your face, but I mean, I love it still. But
yes, it's just one of those things. Like, I know what you did there, and you were not trying to hide it in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, which just makes it ridiculous when people are already starting to right now put these seeds out there to say, well, it's not really a Christian allegory.
Well, we're trying to tell the story. Well, that's what made the movie so horrible, was it that they took the allegories of Christ out of it, which is so much of the book. You lost 80-90% of the story without the faith aspect of it. So they have breakfast. Aslan reveals that he is Aslan, comes back, reshapes himself into a lion or whatever, and tells Lucy and Edmund, it's this very heartbreaking scene. I don't think I've yet to read this chapter in the book without crying through it, that they don't get to come back to Narnia anymore. This is the famous line where he tells Lucy that she has to get to know him by his name here in this earth, hitting allegory on the head. But that Eustace is going to be coming back, and Lucy really, really struggles with this.
She was the closest one to Aslan out of all of the Pevensies.
Yeah,
she was always the one to see him first. She was always, we see this in Prince Caspian, where she's been seeing Aslan the whole time, and they're not following and not listening to her, and she actually kind of gets chided. She gets chided by Aslan for not following her when he told her to, even though her siblings outvoted her. That she should have followed him anyways, up onto, they end up walking into trouble in Prince Caspian because they didn't follow him. And so she's always one who sees him first. She's always the one who sees him the most. She's the one who has the most conversations with him. She's by far the closest. And so you have this heartbreaking scene where Aslan is in tears, Lucy is in tears, discussing that she doesn't get to come back anymore, that she's getting too old. And he breathes on them and sends them back to the room. And from there, we know that Eustace was not as horrible as he used to be. And that from ever that on, people were like, wow, he's actually like a decent human being.
And I love the way his mother doesn't like him or doesn't know what's wrong with him. She thinks there's something wrong with him because he's actually being a decent kid.
Right? It's like, I didn't raise you to be a decent human being. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the Voyage of the Dawn Treader in a nutshell. This one, like, if you have seen the movie, like I have, and you have flashbacks of the movie while reading this, and it was horrible. Like, I'd be like, oh, this is movie was.
See, this goes back to I know I watched it. I remember watching it. I did not watch it in theaters. I watched it on DVD at home. I definitely know I watched it. I have, outside of remembering being angry, I have vague memories of Eustace as a dragon. I believe you like a red dragon. And
I liked the Eustace dragon design. Like, personally, I thought it was okay.
I remember the massive white beach that they made Aslan on. I don't even remember if they introduced Aslan on the beach as a lamb or if they just have him as a lion the whole time, because that would be like a huge in-your-face allegory. So
I don't think they had him as the lamb, because I don't remember the lamb in the movie either.
See, this is one of those, like, I have vague memories of this like massive white beach expanse and there being a dragon, and my brain has blocked everything else.
I think they even skipped some islands in the movie, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't see how they could have gotten all of them in there.
They definitely did not do all the islands.
Okay.
I know they did the Dufflepot Island. They did the Dragon Island.
I think they left out the invisible little people, though.
No, that was in there.
No, that was in there. Wait, did I watch the whole movie? I must have.
I don't know if they did the Nightmare Island,
Dream Island.
The Dream Island. I don't remember those two.
I think they did, because that's when when Lucy had like her vision of Susan or something. They had to have done Dream Island.
I thought she had her vision of Susan while she was reading the book on the Dufflepot Island.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
I think
the
I thought in the movie it was she looked into a mirror and saw Susan.
That I don't remember. I have no idea.
I don't know. I only saw it once, so it was quite a while
like I
ago.
said,
I feel like that was in the movie. She looked at a mirror, saw Susan, and then had like a vision.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they cut out islands, because they had their whole subplot: lost child, green smoke, somehow White Witch is back. Weird subplot that made absolutely
that
no
was
sense.
so weird.
Yeah, they tried to bring the White Witch back. If any of you in the chat are curious, like, and that's not.
Well, they tried to do that in Prince Caspian.
Right.
Yeah. It's almost like they had a contract where they had to have the actress appear at least once.
Yes.
So weird.
It was interesting. Maybe I did block more of the Dawn Treader than I thought I did, because I was like, I watched it. I don't think I watched it. I don't think I paid attention enough, because now like there are some facts in my brain. I'm like, I remember this, but I don't remember that. And I'm assuming because I don't remember it, it was in the movie instead of the book.
Yeah.
Google is not helping, or I'm struggling to Google the right words to figure out what movies, what islands they did or didn't go to in the movie.
Oh, I had a thought. I'm sorry.
You're good. Thoughts happen.
It derailed.
Well, why don't we talk about our feelings on what Netflix is gonna do to the Chronicles of Narnia, because there's even more rumors that it's happening.
I mean, I don't know. We did not see Barbie. We have no intention of seeing Barbie. I've heard very mixed things on if it's actually satire or if it is just in your face misandry. I don't know. I still don't trust that woman with a 10-foot pole. Like, Hollywood should be nowhere near such a faith-filled allegory. Like,
right.
I don't care if it's fantasy. I don't care if Netflix wants it's fantasy. There are plenty of other books they could have used to get their Game of Thrones, because you know that's what this is. You know that's what they want. They want their Game of Thrones, just like Disney. Disney's probably going to do that with Aragon and Christopher Paolini. Like, you know that everybody wants their Game of Thrones. So this is Netflix's version. And I'm like, there are so many other books you could have drawn from.
You could have just created a fantasy series that has nothing from a book, and then you wouldn't make any of the fandoms angry.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that woman, I'm sorry. She just, the thing that I know off the top of my head is that Peter and Edmund are just going to be complete dunces, and it's going to be Susan and Lucy who are going to be the heroes of the story.
Oh, of course.
That right there, I think, is a given.
Of course. Susan the sharp shot. We know Susan's a sharp shot archer, but she's, she's given a bow for a reason, because Aslan's like, it's not your place to be in the thick of the battle. He's like, that's not, you need to be able to defend yourself, but he's like, it's not your spot, like, to be there. And so we know they're going to reverse that, and he's going to be, one of them is going to be an amazing sword fighter for sure.
I don't even know, to be completely blunt with you, how do you make this a story about that includes Aslan without having that allegory in there? Maybe that's like me. I'm not a good enough writer, apparently, to like think of like, how do you remove that from the story and either one, keep Aslan, or like the kids save themselves and Aslan's just like a by character.
This is just like
he's going to be a representation of like magic and the pantheon of gods in general. And they're going to get into that with like, Aslan is whoever you want him to be.
I imagine like they might do like he's the main god of a pantheon. Because like, I mean, it does mention other gods and stuff in Narnia. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to try and Zeusify Aslan, because a lot of people, like if Jesus or God is mentioned, they're trying to like change it. They tend to go the Greek pantheon route. So they'll probably make him more akin to Zeus in his personality. They'll probably, anything where he's mentioned like him quote unquote being Jesus, they'll probably do like a poly religion where they just throw all of the other religious stuff in place of Christianity. So any references to Christianity will probably be replaced by some sort of other pantheon, like either Hindu, Buddha, Greek,
Aslan
Norse.
is inside of you. It's gonna be, or just lean into like New Age mythology really hard, and it's gonna be like, Aslan represents, who your true self or something. They're gonna have to lean into something like that to lean into the current culture and remove the Christ from it as much as they can. Because I struggle to see how they would write a story at all about Narnia without some reference to Aslan. I mean, they could, instead of just trying to do the 7 books, they could just decide that they're going to do something about like the 1,000 years between, and then Aslan has been seen for those 1,000 years. So you could do whatever you wanted with Narnia for 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't even know, and Mando, I don't know if you know the answer to this. Do they have the rights to the stories themselves, or is it like stories within Narnia? Like, because I think I could be 100% wrong, but that's what Christopher, I believe, Paolini sold, is stories about Allegacia, but he didn't actually sell the book, the rights to the book to tell that story. Is this like we're getting the 7 books, or is this like Narnia inspired stories?
They have been very vague about it, which is making me think that is possible, because I remember that kind of language with the Rings of Power.
Sure, yeah.
So they have actually not come out. That's a good point. The Trouble Green. Instead, they are adapting the books. They've said stories, like Narnia stories. So we probably, just like the Rings of Power, will maybe even have to wait until the first trailer comes out to truly know what their intentions are.
Sure. Okay.
That would definitely be a scapegoat way of like, you can't be angry at us because we're just telling stories about Narnia.
Right. According to I went back and I found this article. It's Rolling Stones, so take it with a grain of salt. They could be wrong, but this is coming from Rolling Stones. Netflix acquired the rights to C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, with the streaming service developing new series and film projects revolving around the beloved fantasy book series. The C.S. Lewis Company and Netflix announced the multi-year deal Wednesday, which gives the streaming service the rights to all 7 Narnia novels. So that's what Rolling Stones is saying.
Okay, well, maybe that's it then.
Well, I mean,
I won't be watching them. I know that.
Yeah, we won't. I won't.
I might, just to do a review, and I probably will get an aneurysm and somebody will have to send me to the hospital.
You'd have to pay me so much to put myself through that sort of pain.
The thing is, like, I was hoping that they were going to shelve Narnia, because it seemed like they were going to shelve Brian Jacques, that they had Redwall as well. But I mean, if this is a flying success, I'm sure they'll turn to Jacques and do that next. So they unfortunately have their mitts on a lot of good stories that shouldn't be messed with. I just
Right. What's up, Ark?
you know, and I don't know, like this is a grain of salt or grain of hope for me. I'm gonna read the books. I don't know if y'all saw Jeremy Boring's announcement that Daily Wire is doing a fantasy series based off of Merlin and King Arthur.
I have not.
Oh,
Yeah. Here I
actually
can try
might
and
be
find the
good.
article. And it's it looks like it's gonna be a Roman here. Let me just pull up the article because it looks amazing. My mom loves King Arthur retellings, and so she was very excited about this. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Hold on, bear with me.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and as far as what you were worried about, like about how they were going to portray Aslan, didn't Liam, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, Liam Neeson, he did say it. He did try to downplay the Jesus part too. Even
Yeah.
with the original movies, which
You
was
know,
ridiculous.
You get rid of the fact that, you know, Aslan is supposed to change size depending on their faith. Like, that's pretty clear in Prince Caspian that, like, she's like, Aslan, you've gotten bigger. He's like, oh no, he's like, your faith has gotten bigger. Like, the more you know me and the more you see me, the larger I am. And they got rid of that because, you know, that would mean you have to talk about, you know, faith and Jesus, and we wouldn't want to do that because
Yeah.
That's the one thing you're not allowed to talk positively about right now.
Yeah.
you know, as long as Jesus bad, you're good.
So this is what this new Daily Wire project is going to be on. The drama will be inspired by the first two books of the series written by Stephen R. Lawhead. The Pendragon Cycle is a retelling of the Arthurian legend set not in the high medieval ages of knights in shining armor, but in the wake of a Roman-occupied Britain where the seeds of Christianity are beginning to take root. As barbarian invaders threaten to lay claim to the island, those with faith prevail. And I believe they're shooting it in northern Italy and Hungary.
Nice.
Right?
That's
And, like,
awesome.
if you have a Audible account, which is what I have, the first 3 books, I believe there's 6 books, the first 3 books are included with your subscription, and you can read all of them for free. Yeah, I know. I was so excited. So I've already downloaded them. I'm going to read them. So hopefully, you know, Jeremy Boring said he's read these books since he was little. I would hope that he would do them justice. So at least there's maybe like a small kernel of hope for some good fantasy to come out of Hollywood here in the near, not too distant future. Because I've been pestering the Daily Wire, and I know I'm not the only one, about like fantasy. You need to do fantasy. There is a market ripe for some good fantasy. Please do some fantasy.
Yes.
We're doing it. But it sounds like it's a faith-based fantasy, which I'm just all the more excited for.
I wonder if they're ever going to do any Francine Rivers books.
Why does that sound familiar? Oh, Francine Rivers. Oh, they
Redeeming Love. She also did a series based in Rome about yeah.
I've heard about those.
I read through most of it. The first 2 for sure. The third one I got maybe first couple of chapters and it wasn't for me, but I might try again. But the first 2 books, mwah,
Okay.
chef's kiss, amazing. I love it. I would read it again if I had them with me, but I borrowed them from the library.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, well, that's good to know. So anyway, but so far as Netflix, what scares me about C.S. Lewis is it's going to happen regardless. There's nothing we can do to stop it, just like with Rings of Power. What I don't know is if the C.S. Lewis fandom is going to give Netflix the whipping that the Tolkien fandom gave Amazon. I would hope that the Tolkien fandom would raise up, even if they don't like C.S. Lewis, which is weird to me, even if they're not huge fans of C.S. Lewis, that they would at least understand that these two are, there's no Tolkien without Lewis, there's no Lewis without Tolkien.
You need to protect both. Like, the
We
Lewis
need to,
franchise frequently crosses over, but the
Like-
Lewis franchise rose to arms with the Tolkien franchise of the Rings of Power. Like, without a thought. Like, I was Lewis before I was a Tolkien fan, and it's not even like a thought in my mind. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I've said this many times. Like, I was a C.S. Lewis fan before I was a Tolkien fan, and like I see them as like they were brothers. I'm gonna defend, like Tolkien. Like I know Lewis would defend Tolkien, like because they were brothers. Not actual biological brothers, but you guys get what I mean.
Yeah. Well, everyone that I personally know, and the people that I stream with my streams, we all love Tolkien and Lewis. Believers, non-believers alike. So I think that it will happen because C.S. Lewis, especially I would hope the Christian community also will charitably let their voices be known, because I've been a big vocal supporter, or maybe a vocal antagonist against, while you're defending what is good, don't become what you hate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes becoming cruel and, or maybe, it's like you can criticize the art without charitably, you know what I mean? That it can be done with charity, and you can be vicious, if you will, in a charitable way, but not in a cruel way. So I'm hoping that will happen.
I will say that, now granted, I have a very small following on Instagram, on my Bookstagram account. But there's a gal on there, her handle is Sweet Sequels. I encourage all of you to go follow her. Wonderful lady, beautiful artist. She's all about the classics. She speaks up about so many things. She is a powerhouse, and I think she's got like 10,000 followers or something. She's been outspoken about this from the moment it was announced. Everything. She is very worried. Everyone I've spoken to on Bookstagram in particular is like, no, we don't want this. This is going to be a devastation. Like, this is going to be a travesty. Everyone I know has been like, no, solidly against this. So it's weird. It's like, it's almost like on Bookstagram, I've seen more of the no one asked for this than I have on Twitter. Whereas with Rings of Power, I saw it more on Twitter, and on Instagram, I saw like, we liked it. And I'm like, really? So it's been a weird dichotomy that it's been more the book community in particular that I've seen been like, no one asked for this and nobody wants it. And none of them so far that I've heard has any faith that Greta, whatever her name is going to do.
I keep saying Greta Thunberg because I know it's wrong, but that's the only name that I could think of.
Thornberg, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm like Hornberg, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that they won't. I mean, no matter who it is, the whole team won't. I'll just throw this out here. And now, if they do it well, I'll be the first person to say I'm wrong. Yes. But I am not expecting them, because they are incapable of showing what is true and what is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yup. And to comment on Ark's comment, definitely if Daily Wire doesn't do this well, it's not going to look good for them. This is kind of their testing grounds where they're, this is going to be the first fantasy movie or project that they're going to have, and it's going to be the benchmarks. Like, if you can do this right, you're going to be
trusted by the community with more.
Yes.
You do it wrong and you disappoint people, there's going to be, it's like one of those, like, we all have graciouses that we can give within a thing, right? Like, Lord of the Rings does not perfectly follow the book, but we all consider it to be a true adaptation of the books, because he stayed true and he stayed in heart and in theme with the books. So as long as you do that, the community is going to bicker about what you choose to leave out or put in, because, Tom Bombadil is a very controversial character.
Yeah, and a lot of people are okay with him not being in the movies because it makes no sense for him to be in the movies.
I'm like, thank you.
And then there are some people who are like, you didn't put Tom Bombadil in there. How dare you? He's the main character.
I wish he was in the films. I'm not a big movie watcher in general, just to be clear. I struggle with a lot of anxiety and I have a very vivid imagination, and I struggle with music specifically causing anxiety. I respond very viscerally to music being intense. So I struggle to watch most films. I can read a book just fine. I own the whole series in the extended editions. I haven't watched them in years, and I want to have them and I like having the option, but it's not something I'm going to sit down and watch very often. Too many anxiety issues. And I wish that he was in there. I would probably watch a movie. I would watch a movie made correctly, a Bear and Luthien story in a heartbeat. But I totally get why he's not in there. Like,
Yeah.
Oh
not
yeah,
a reason to boycott the film. That would be like he's a slightly chaotic character, and if you're trying to condense that book,
Yeah, he's the one that logically goes. But I think we got to keep in mind, this is my personal opinion, that an adaptation, even Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, is nothing but an adaptation. And, he did probably what the best adaptation, I think, possible from the Lord of the Rings. But, he's not the end all be all. It's Tolkien
Right.
and his source that is the end all be all.
Yes, agreed. Ark says, I missed the borrow rights though. Come on, give me. Oh, he's talking about horror stuff. I'm just like, that's not that's not been my genre. I've recently started getting into some horror stuff because I guess I've been exposed to it so much that I don't react to it anymore. Like my husband doesn't like to try and scare me anymore because, oh, you don't have the same reactions you used to. Yeah, because you freaking. Anyway. I build up a tolerance for it, so I started kind of.
Anymore.
Well, when you guys scare me every single day in college for whatever reason, after a couple of years, you tend to stop getting scared easily because you expect it.
You reacted so well; it was fun.
Apparently, that's the only reason. My husband yesterday said the only reason I have any followers is because I have great reactions, and I was like.
That's mean.
I mean, you might not be totally wrong.
Hey, shut up! I don't need you.
It's all
I mean, even when you meet me in person, apparently I have great reactions. I just spit in people's face randomly. I tend to tackle people. It's great. It's awesome.
You are a highly emotive person. You experience the world in 5,000 colors, Jessica. Mando. Sorry.
It's all good. I think most people know my name now.
I think going back to the Daily Wire, I think a good litmus test is if the armor and swords look real, which, like, to me, I feel like that's like, if your swords are like they look plastic, that's just no. Then I know you didn't care
at Spirit Halloween down the road.
Yeah, so like I'm like, that show Forged in Fire, there are enough out in the hills Appalachian, swordsmiths who don't look like they're part of the pronoun police, who I'm sure would do a fantastic job. I hope they draw on those kinds of people, because those old men have been waiting for something like this to come along for years, and they're like, yes, choose me. They don't need
how many guys do you
swordsmith.
pick up? I mean, how many guys? Like I think I know what show you're talking about because I watched it a little bit when I was living at home with my parents briefly. How many guys do you think have gone into swordsmithing and things like that because of movies and books like Lord of the Rings, like these epic fantasies? Like you watch boys play with each other. They want swords. They want the magister, the fame and the glory that comes from wielding a sword and sword fights. Like, boys will make anything into swords, right? So like, this is like outsource your armor making to the people who are super passionate about like Shadiversity. Like, bring them in. Like, reach out to like the guys living in the woods. Like, this would be literally make a contest out of it. Like, if you made a contest out of it, like, hey, read this book and give us some ideas for like, send us your prototypes for armor and weaponry for this fantasy book we're doing, and like make it a contest. Oh my goodness,
bro, that would be amazing.
I just can imagine, like, I've seen these guys work, the amount of craftsmanship and the detail that they can put in. Oh my gosh, it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not. And like what Ark said, like, bring in people who know their stuff, who are not part of the Hollywood as a whole. There are so many people out there who, like Shad, are really great at medieval reenactments, who know how weapons worked, who know what the armor is supposed to look like, who know like about that time period, and who can help you actually make this into a great series and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
if
and
they
like,
don't,
think of like the women. I mean, I follow several of them for research purposes on Instagram who are costume reenactment people. They don't just sew something that would have been worn in the Anglo-Saxon time. They have researched what kind of
material
hank that they would have used to sew up their dresses. I mean, they use like lamb gut. They go all the way. They don't like sit on their sewing machine and make their dress. No, they hand stitch it. And they know exactly what the proportions should be. They know exactly what kind of jewelry you should be wearing. Like, there are so
they can watch these films. Like they do entire, like, I don't, politically agree with a lot of them, unfortunately, but like they can go through these films and they can pick them apart and go, what era are they trying to tell a story with, and talk about like, hey, if you're going to try to tell an era and say a story and say it's kind of like representative of this era, like we can give you creative license, but like that's not from that era. You're pulling people out of the story. Also, one of the things, like if you're trying to like save money and you're on a lower budget, these same women are really, really good at going like, hey, you can't afford to get the perfectly spun wool or linen. Like, here is the closest approximation of a cheaper fabric for telling the purpose of the story that's going to be fine on film. Like, there are people who have so many niche passions, and like you don't have to know everything. Like, that's the amazing thing about the world we live in and the internet, right? Like, you don't have to be an expert in fabric and fashion and history of clothing in this era, and you don't have to be all of these things. There are so many people who would love to see a good story told with good props and good costumes, and would be fantastic at it and would love to help.
Yeah, and Mark of Reality, welcome in after law school. After most school, people lost the ability to read novels for pleasure. I'm starting to get that back. I also read Shadow of the Conqueror. If any of you have read or want to read Shadow of the Conqueror, Shad's book, it's great. There are definitely some things that I critiqued. Like, I did a review on the channel for Shad's book. Highly recommend it. You should read it. Law school broke me. Yeah, most college or higher education makes people not want to read after a while.
It either breaks you, or like what happened to one of my really close friends is that she went to law school, and I think books was like her like trauma escape. She would just read. She had no life. She just read books. I'd have to check in with her and make sure she was like finding food. It was like her trauma response was that she just disappeared into books.
Smile. So you said you have to head out in a few minutes. Do you want to go ahead and shout out all of your stuff? And
gotta go do electrical work on my apartment that I lease out with my dad. So if you don't hear from me for a few days, make sure that I haven't electrocuted and died. My dad's doing the work, don't worry.
That makes me feel so much better. Yay!
Hey, he's got a degree in electrical engineering. We're good.
How long ago did he get that degree?
He wired our house. He can wire a house. He can still do it. He's good. You know my dad. My dad can do just about anything, and he's very good at what he does. Anyways, it's also really hot, so I'm not looking forward to doing work outside. Anyways, I am on the internet. I'm on Instagram at Smile a While for me, the exact same as you see my name here. I am on Twitter, same name, but there is an underscore and a 4. I hope that Mando has that link somewhere, because still memorizing that. I'm doing more YouTube stuff over on the Twitter sphere, because I had to clean up my Instagram feed, because that's all plants and yarn and gardening stuff, which is what I do. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, that's fine. You'll see lots of pictures of things like my cross stitching and my knitting and house projects and things like that. But I will be around in places. I need to reach out to Salty because he wants to talk to me about Eye of the World stuff, and I haven't done that. But so you'll see me around places and in chats, but I'll be back in September for Silver Chair in the Last Battle.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one, I think.
Last Battle's my like second favorite book, so I'm excited about that. It's probably the book I quote the most.
That's interesting.
That'll
be an interesting discussion.
It will be. That's gonna be intriguing.
I have the most theological issues with The Last Battle, but it is also by far the book that I quote the absolute most.
That'll be a great conversation. I'm excited for it. So
I look forward to that.
Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, Smile.
You guys too. I will have to catch the rest of the stream in your guys' wonderful discussion later.
Yes. Make sure. Okay, make sure she didn't like accidentally not eat herself when she needed to, because I've done that before. I'm like, I didn't do that right. So did you both watch the Voyage of Dawn Treader? I think you said you did watch.
I must have. I have passing memories of it, but I legitimately blocked it out. I don't know if I finished, because now when you guys were talking, I was like, I kind of sort of remember. But what also could have happened is I watched the actual like first half of the movie, turned it off because I was so mad, and then I watched clips of it on YouTube because I definitely remember the duffel pods. But
okay, I don't remember those at all.
Yeah, they were like, it was too colorful. That's what I hated about that. Just everything was too colorful, and that sounds weird, like a weird critique. It just was. But I vaguely remember that. I remember the wall of water with Aslan at the very end and the kids saying goodbye. But I don't remember anything beyond that. I genuinely don't. I blocked it out.
I must have too.
Yeah, I saw all three of them in the cinema, and Voyage to the Dawn Treader didn't necessarily make me mad. I recall at the time, but I won't lie. That's the book that I'm the least familiar with. I remember just kind of enjoying it for what it was, and we knew that the whole series was pittering out anyways. I just recall, like, the opening scene I thought was very, very good. The way they showed the boat and the picture and the water, those moments, and Eustace and the part with the dragon, and the nice part, I thought they did rip it cheap pretty good, at the end when he's going up the waterfall and stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it's like I said, just like any adaptations, I don't know. It just was what it was.
Yeah. I feel like I'm turning my husband slowly into a Hunger Games fan, because he's like, hold on, what happened there? So I'm like, okay, let me explain.
Are you excited for the movie that's coming out?
Yeah, so we've been watching the movies. I need to reread The Ballad of Birdsongs and Snakes because it's been a while since I have, so I'm going to reread it before it comes out. But he wanted to watch all the movies leading up to, and I was like, okay, so we can understand what's going on. But he asked me, he's like, how do you guys feel about the Narnia movies? And I told him, and I do firmly believe this, that I feel like the guy who was in charge of the Chronicles of Narnia, I don't remember his name, the director, he had that long blonde hair. I feel like he wanted to be Peter Jackson, and he could have been if the studio hadn't stuck their oar in. I feel like he wanted to be faithful, but Disney had too many fingers in the pots, and that they ruined a lot of what was happening. Because I feel like I watched an interview of him by the time of the Voyage of the Dawn Treader came out. And I just remember even back then feeling, man, he looks defeated. Like, he looks depressed. He does not look happy at all. Just you wait until you get married, Ark. That's all I have to say about that. I feel like that guy wanted to, and he missed his boat, and like, because I never heard anything of him ever again. But I felt like he wanted, because he brought C.S. Lewis's son on. He wanted him to be a consultant. He wanted to be the next Peter Jackson, and I think Disney really messed him up.
Well, Disney does that to any of their actors or directors or anything. Like, Disney ruins people. And yeah, I agree, because like nothing was ever heard from him again. He probably just got disillusioned with Hollywood at that point. Because like it's the Narnia movies should have been an easy win. They should have been.
It should have been. It should have been an easy, ace in the hole.
Well,
Right,
the first
and-
one though was, I mean, I really don't have much of a problem with the first one, and I remember it was people were really excited about it, and it was a huge success.
It was, but a lot of it just fell flat, just literally because I thought it was boring. Like, I just felt like the kids they chose, nothing against them, I just thought they were kind of flat actors. I just never bought them, really. Peter was okay, Lucy was okay because she was so young. Eustace was a little brat. Susan, I just think she was the wrong actress. I don't know. I can look at the movie and see like, yeah, this is pretty faithful, but I'm just like, it's boring. I just don't like it.
I think part of the problem, and this is what happened with the Hobbit trilogy as well, is studios who are not creatives keep telling creatives what they're supposed to do. And that never works out, because if you are a business person and you are in charge of, making the studio money, stay out of the creative people's way. I think too often that happens where, creatives are like, yeah, we can do this and blah, blah, blah. And then the business people in the suits who have not a creative bone in their freaking body, it's just like, no. And I think that happened with the Hobbit movies when the studio realized, oh, we done messed up. We put our finger in the pot too much and messed this whole thing up. And I think that's a lot of the problem. I think that's probably like most likely what happened with the Chronicles of Narnia. They probably were like, it's got too many Christian themes. We need you to throw that out. And I'm sure the director was like, well, I can't stay faithful if I can't do what I'm supposed to do. So I think that Disney does that a lot. Disney has a bunch of people on the executive board who have too much say in what creative people are doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
He did Shrek 1 and 2. No.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he did. I forgot about that. Sorry, go ahead, Miss Smart News. We interrupted.
Oh no, I was just saying that, but that's been a theme. Heck, that's even been a theme even back in the golden age of movies, where they would have that. And I know that sometimes people will get in their head, well, if I was in charge, this is what I would do. And they don't always realize sometimes you're not allowed to do it, like that they try. I would like to use this as an analogy, having been an educator, and people's like, well, if this was my classroom, this is what I would do if a kid did that. And I'm like, okay. And then what happens when they send the kid right back and say, you're not allowed to kick the kid out of class for beating the living daylights out of someone else. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Try it. Sure. You would do this if you were in charge, and then find out that actually your hands are completely tied. That's very similar to what happens in Hollywood. And, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Margaret, the business people and the political people need to get out of the way and let the creative people create. No more ESG based funding. I agree. I think that's a big part of it too. In modernity, like right now, is you must meet XYZ box. You must check every box, and that limits what the creative people can do.
Yeah. And that's why I think, like, even if you don't like them, even if you don't like a single solitary soul at Daily Wire, you have to applaud what they're trying to do. And they have the funding to do it, kind of. I mean, they're getting there. And even like, Josiah and Epic Mike with Epicverse. I mean, heck, Peter Jackson started out in his backyard with thumbstick cameras. I mean, look where that got them. So I think that, like, I think a lot of people still poo-poo this idea of stepping outside of Hollywood. And it's like, no, there's a reason why those people step out and try to do certain things. Some things are flops, some things are great. I enjoy Daily Wire's the Hypernians much more, and I hate to say this, than Gina Carano's movie. That was just way too much for me. It was beautifully shot. It was beautifully shot. But even when I talked to my mom afterwards, she found a lot of plot holes that she had issues with. She liked the first movie, the drug addict mom. I can't even remember what it was called. She liked that movie much more than she liked Gina's movie. Not because of the intensity, which is why I was like, I watched it once. I'll probably never watch it again. She found a lot of plot holes, and she's like, it felt rushed, you know. And I loved the Hypernians. I thought it was a wonderfully weird, very like Art Nouveau movie, and I loved it. But they're trying, and you have to give studios like people like them. They are at the very least trying.
Right, and I agree. Like. People are always saying, you know, well, you should do your own thing. And then when they actually do their own thing, it's just like, oh, well, they have something else to complain about. And so like, I think, yes, we should support alt media and alt things, but also like, don't be afraid to critique it.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to say where it's wrong, because that's the problem of Hollywood is they have too many people telling them that their poop don't smell.
Yes, exactly. and that's like, you know, going back to like publishing, you know, I bought a young girl's book off of Bookstagram. She's an indie author. She's, you know, doing her own thing. She's self-published, I believe. It was a dragon rider book, and I was like, she's a Christian, bubbly, very nice young lady. I bought it, and I got 3 pages in. I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. It was so bad. And I interacted with her enough that I knew if I read it and critiqued it, because I had seen her almost crumble under bad reviews of other people. I was like, I actually sold it. And I was like, I will never critique this book. I will never leave a review because it is so bad. But she's also seems like some delicate, and I gave her a little bit of a lecture. I was like, honey, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Like, bad reviews are part and parcel of what you're getting into. You're going to have to toughen up. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
Well, and but people won't improve too.
Exactly.
Yes men. Yeah, it doesn't.
Exactly. So I am all for, and that's why, you know, hopefully I want to write my own story, and I've got a couple things in the works, but it's like, I want to take my time and do it right, because I've been very critical of indie authors, because I'm like, if you don't have a good editor,
that's the other thing too, when it has grammar.
Exactly. And just, you can't even string a good sentence together, you shouldn't be writing. So it's like, yes, go out there and do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't be writing. I'm saying you need to keep practicing. Those are 2 separate things. I'm not telling you to put down the pencil. I'm telling you need to keep practicing.
And be okay with someone saying you need to change this because XYZ thing.
Yes.
Like, you have to be okay with that. Like, us here on the YouTube sphere, I get people messaging me all the time. Like, XYZ, like, I don't like what you did here and do that. And like, of course I have to sift through the trash and actually get to the real comments and the real criticisms. I wouldn't be able to improve. Like, there was someone one time said that I needed to get like a better camera. I finally got a better camera. It sucks sometimes, but I'm doing that because I want to get better. And I took that criticism and I'm like, okay, how can I improve? How can I do better? And that's how you're supposed to do it. Like, whatever sphere of influence that you are in, whether you're just a desk worker, a producer or director, writer, like, be willing to take criticisms, but also understand when people are just, you're not going to please them.
Well, and they're also, because I encountered this when I started YouTube. Man, we've gone off the total rails, but I found this to be true when I started YouTube, is that you ask for feedback from people, you're either going to get constructive criticism, or you're going to get, well, it doesn't work because of this. And eventually you realize you're critiquing me because you're not doing the thing I'm doing. So you want to keep me from succeeding because you're either jealous or whatever it is. So there are people who can't, because they have a dream and they refuse to pursue it and succeed and do the hard work and not be poor pitiful me, woe is my life, look at all the hard things I've had to go through. It's like, get a number and get in line. You have to also sift through that, because there are people who are going to want to tear you down because they're too lazy to succeed in their own dreams. So, and that for me was the hardest part of starting YouTube, was sifting through that, like taking constructive criticism and then being like, I really don't think this person wants me to succeed.
Yup. And then going back to arcs, he and I get that, like he doesn't want to see
I
ideology
agree.
pushed. Yes,
I agree.
like Daily Wire, like I think that's one of the cool things about Daily Wire. It does have a lot of very different thinking people.
Yes.
Like I have seen Matt Walsh argue with some of the other people in the Daily Wire and stuff, and I think that's a good environment to be in. Like people who they agree on certain things, they agree on the core principles that you need to agree on to be able to function, but they disagree on sometimes the how, the where. They disagree on things that need to be disagreed on. Sometimes they have some weird takes, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
but
like Michael Knowles. I don't like Michael Knowles, but I like Matt Smith.
I like Andrew Clavin because I listen to his son's podcast.
Okay.
He's the Young Heretics. Like, love his son's podcast. Don't agree with his son's lifestyle choice, but he's a very intelligent human, and he talks about a lot of ancient. He basically, his podcast is about getting the history lesson you probably didn't get when you went to school.
Okay.
And so he talks about the things that aren't usually talked about in school, but that you should know to have an actual classical education.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I like listening to it. His voice is also very deep and soothing.
Yeah, I have Andrew Clavin's daughter's book, but I haven't read it yet. It's like titled "The What Hollywood Gets Wrong About the Disney Princess" or something, and it was all about how femininity, society crumbles if femininity is not there. So I have her book. I just need to read it.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think we got off into the weeds, but I love these conversations. I love the weeds conversation.
Yeah, sometimes the weeds conversations are very good.
Yes. I need to come up with a better term. The rabbit trails, the bunny trails, the wee. I don't know.
Well, and I've been a very strong advocate also of, we don't even need necessarily new content when there's so much old content that's unexplored.
Yes.
Too. Because I'm also talking about people, just your own personal happiness. It's like, go back and read some of those old things. Well, read Wheel of Time. Read Dragonlance and all the great classics. I just reread The Count of Monte Cristo, and I'd forgotten. I mean, I love that book, but I'd forgotten just how absolutely fantastic that is.
But it's at the top of my classic list. I really want to read The Count of Monte Cristo.
I'm actually
amazing.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying. I was just about ready to start gushing, but yeah, it is an amazing book, and It is. I've said a lot, that I don't like the way, like the 2002 and a lot of the movies end it with a happy ending and all that. It's like, no, that's not the point of the book. So it's really, really a good lesson and meditation on revenge, and just don't go there.
Right.
It's a great story. I'm actually eventually going to be doing a series on like Edgar Allan Poe and Edgar Allan Poe like work. So Count of Monte Cristo will probably be in there. I'll let you guys know when I do more about it, because I'm also in talks with Writing Raven, and she might also be
awesome. Well, I just have to say, I don't know why I have been sleeping on Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe, but oh my gosh, I have never the first book gave me such a massive hangover. I wasn't able to pick up book 2. I think I'm ready.
Oh,
but
okay.
I think it's good actually that we don't hear Brandon Sanderson as one of these this is an extreme example, but I think you'll understand that the what I'm trying to get across. Then he's not like a Lizzo of the writing sphere, right? He's kind of in the shadows. He kind of lurks, and he's there. He's a big name, but I've never even given him a second thought. And then all of my people on Instagram were pushing me to read the Cosmere, read The Way of Kings. I just had no idea. It was so phenomenal. I did not know. And now I'm even more excited to read The Wheel of Time, because I'm like, he's finished it, Yeah. So I am blown away by Sanderson's work. I've heard people they either hate or love it, because it is, I don't even know if you can call it fantasy. It's a category unto itself. It's so bizarre. But oh my gosh, is it so good. Way of Kings, the Stormlight Archive. I am ready to pick up, I think, Words of Radiance. But oh my gosh, I just, yeah, and Brandon Sanderson has so many books. I'm like, I'm gonna be set for, like, I literally need to go on a book buying ban. No more new series for me because I have so many books I gotta read.
I'm kind of feeling you there. I finally I got the full Witcher series for like $40, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
'cause,
No,
like,
I agree. I know, Ark, it's like this weird thing. It's like he's always there, but nobody, like in Bookstagram, like it's always like the poppy cool authors people are talking about. You don't, like, it's either poppy and cool or Tolkien. There's not like a whole lot of in between. You know, you get like the Witcher books and like other books, but like Sanderson fans, I just feel like, and Sanderson himself are so big and so omnipresent, you almost forget they're there. It's like this weird thing of like, do you read Brandon Sanderson? Yeah, I read Brandon Sanderson. Like, you know, it's like this weird thing. So I just like, but I'm so glad I took the dive in. If anyone is looking for some just mind-bogglingly good, but you can't blink or you'll miss something, fantasy, I guess you can call it fantasy. Start with a Stormlight Archive. I can't recommend it enough. So there's like 40 more books you can add to your pile, Jess. You know, there it is.
just keep on adding.
Right?
Like, oh my god, I'll never read all of them in time.
I know.
Oh, because I'm still trying to go through the Halo series, and I'm just like, oh my god, there's so many books.
I gave up.
Yeah, I finally
I'm
started reading The Wheel of Time, and I gotta say,
that next.
I sat down and I read 100 pages straight. That's how amazingly good it is. And I'm almost done with the first one. I've read the first one like 20 years ago and barely remembered anything about it. And so I'm getting back into it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is just unbelievable. And I'm almost done with the first one. It's like 700 pages or something.
Yeah,
so
I am very excited to read The Wheel of Time.
Pokies, you should finish Wheel of Time.
That's true.
This is true. I'm just, I think I might be. I think I just need to stick to one and just go with it. Because like I also want to start the Wheel of Time, but I also want all of the books before I start the Wheel of Time, and I don't want to have to wait like to get the next book and stuff. But I don't know. I've been going to my bookstore a lot, and they're just like, oh hey, you're back. I'm like, yup. Here's my card that I get a free book because of last time.
It's awesome.
Because one of my book thrift stores has like a thing where you get a little stamp, and if the stamp's filled, you get a free book.
Nice, that's awesome.
You're choosing. I was like, so I've used that card twice now. All right. Well, I think we are winding down with the conversation and stuff. So let's do what's going on in your life, Elijah. What have you got going on and shouting out and all of the things?
Yeah, nothing much. I don't know. We've been very busy, so I don't know. I don't know if, I think Johnny put in a comment last stream I was on, and I think your bot censored it. I can't remember why. He used like the most not offensive word, but I can't remember what it was, but I think the bot censored it. I edit now for all of Johnny's videos. I edit the audio, and I am, when needs be, I help him put in photos and stuff. I can't tell one player from the other, so I'm like, give me a name and tell me what kind of picture you want, and I'll find it. But so we've just been like really busy. If you follow Johnny's channel, you know, he posts every other day. So we're on a really intense work schedule. So my personal account on Instagram, I no longer post at, and I won't be for the foreseeable future for my own mental health. I'm really only present now on my Bookstagram account, which is Trouble Grains Library. But even then, we've been so busy, and I've been in kind of a reading slump because of Sanderson. But I am almost finished now with the first 3 books of the Songs of Chaos by Michael R. Miller, which is Dragon Rider series. It's very good. I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to do a review of that soon. YouTube is on my back burner. I have no intention of picking it up right this second. Kick, we'll see. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm very much just like in my supportive housewife role right now, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm hardly on Twitter right now. So yeah, I'm just like in a different season of life, different walk of life right at this exact moment that doesn't involve a whole lot of social media, but I'm enjoying being here. It's nice to hang out with the girls and everything. So yeah.
Absolutely. And we're glad to have you. And that's fine. Like if you need to take a break from the internet, do it. If you don't come back in the capacity that you were, that's fine. We still like to see your face. We still like to see you around.
Yeah.
Because Jacob Barnes says
you missed an opportunity there, Ark.
But yeah, like we appreciate you coming on, and you're always welcome. Whatever topic, just let me know if you want to link to whatever like topic I might be talking about and all that good stuff. All right, Ms. Marmuse, what do you got going on?
Well, I'm continuing with Pub Crawl Night 2. Going to be having my nerdy home on Monday afternoon. Topics to be determined. And I'm going to be over, I think, on Dead Man Walking, talking about history, I believe, and many other topics, some reviews, some recipes, some nerd recipes, as well as Teresa travels on Tuesdays. I haven't yet chosen which place we're going to go visit, but please go ahead and give me a like, share, to subscribe. And I'm need about 140 subs to get my AdSense pumping up. So if people could spread the word, maybe give me a like, share, and a subscribe, I would definitely appreciate that.
Links in description down below. You should. She's got some great content on her channel. The Pub Crawl is amazing. I don't always get to see it live, but I do try and watch the playback afterwards and stuff. So you should do it. Do it, all of you. What have I got going on? So my streaming schedule might be changing a smidge. Tomorrow we are not going to be having Unplugged because Wicked is going to be out of town. So we're switching tomorrow's Unplugged to next Sunday, which is a great show. Wicked and I talk about pop culture and news and all of the things that make you laugh and stuff. And for some reason, I can't read. Like, I can read normally, but when I try and read on stream, I can't make words function that come out of my mouth. It's just weird. I will be streaming more on Kick soon. My Monday streams are going to eventually be exclusively on Kick. They will be my D&D streams where me, Trucker Rob, and a few other people are playing some Pathfinder. It's going to be a pirate Pathfinder. I'm so excited. So yeah, please join my Kick for that. It's not going to be this Monday, but probably the Monday after is when that campaign's going to start. And let's see, I'll probably Tuesdays and Thursdays I'll probably be on Roman's channel. We're trying to figure out like how often I'm going to be on his channel on Thursdays and stuff. But otherwise, you'll see me in the Twitch, Twitter, Discord, all of the things. I'm around. If I don't respond, it's probably because my notifications turned off because I have like 50 notifications all the time. And sometimes I get tired of looking at the notifications, if I'm just being honest. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to try and get back into doing the Halo book series. Just the last couple weeks, some family stuff came up and I'm trying to deal with that. So I'll still be around. I might not be as active though on the streaming stuff, but we shall see. So
I want to throw out just real quickly, and this I mean like the chances of this happening right now are like infinitesimal, but we have talked about it. If I can get my Kick set up, which I do want to, I miss hanging out with people. I enjoy their company, and so I miss Megan and I miss Dreaming Tabitha and I miss you guys, and so I do miss hanging out with you guys. If I can get my Kick set up, the reason we moved, I don't know if you guys noticed on Mario Kart, Johnny now streams in here. The reason we moved it in here is because I will wake up, a piece of grass can hit the floor and I'll wake up. So you can't stream in his studio anymore because it would wake me up. If we can get my Kick set up, he is interested maybe once in a blue moon, potentially streaming late at night like he used to, and he will stream from my Kick because he doesn't want to start over and build up a following again. So potentially we might share an account where he will do his late night streams on the stream, nights he wants to hang out or what have you, play some Fortnite. I don't know. Again, that is so on the back burner, but we have definitely discussed it. So yeah, I do want to get my Kick set up because if anything, even if I don't go back to YouTube streaming, just streaming to play some games and have some fun with guys, or you guys would be nice. So
Heck yeah. All up for that. All right. Well, chat, we will see you next time. Have a great rest of your Saturday wherever you are in the world, or if it's Sunday for, I guess, maybe people in Australia. I don't know. Time zones are weird. It's crazy. So, bye, everybody.